Welcome back. Yesterday was the 50th anniversary of the Apollo moon landing, an event that was celebrated widely here in the United States and actually recognized around the world. So from the perspective of the achievement itself, it's a significant thing, but from a perspective of a space lawyer, an international lawyer, that moon landing and the events that happened on the moon represented some very significant events for international law and international space law in particular. And I'm talking about the Outer Space Treaty, which was really only 2 years old when Neil and Buzz walked on the moon. Specifically, what interests me is the planting of the American flag on the moon by Neil and Buzz during their activities on the lunar surface. Now, understanding what planting a flag means, back in colonial times, back a couple hundred years ago during the age of exploration, when another country came to the New World, or they went to another country in colonialism, planting the flag or putting of a marker down would basically signify that they were claiming that country for their king, queen, or country. And that was a very significant event for colonialism, and really runs antithesis to what the Outer Space Treaty put into place. Now, I got to understand, the Outer Space Treaty was created during the Cold War, and there was a lot of controversy about, how we were going to treat this new domain of space. In 1957, the Soviets, for example, made a claim that they owned all the territory from the ground all the way up into space. And that kind of fell by the wayside when Sputnik was launched, because that kind of flew in the face of what they were claiming, and the U.S. jumped in and said, you know what, this looks like it would establish a customary principle of free access to outer space. And essentially that principle of free access followed on into the Outer Space Treaty, which was ratified in 1967 by the US, the Soviet Union, and several other countries. So fundamentally, this planting of the flag presented a problem, and Congress kind of looked at this, and ironically, during the Apollo 12 mission, just before Pete Conrad and Alan Bean walked on the moon, Congress passed the 1970 NASA Authorization Act. And in that, they had a provision, a legally binding provision. Now, it wasn't a policy statement by Congress, what we call a sense of Congress, but actually a legally binding statement that said the implantation of the flag on the moon is basically a symbolic gesture of national pride and achievement, and it expressly disclaimed any claim of sovereignty by planting the flag, and that applied to Neil and Buzz's mission, the Apollo 12 mission, and all subsequent Apollo missions, and any other subsequent mission to another celestial body. Hugely significant, because basically that reaffirmed the U.S.'s commitment to the international law and the Outer Space Treaty and the principle of non-sovereignty. So that is law, and Congress basically used their power to provide money. They use the purse strings, as we call them, to actually make that rule, and that applies to not only the Apollo missions but all further missions, including the Artemis mission, which we will hopefully see in 2024. So what I want you to understand and get from this is that the flag, well, it actually was an impromptu decision to put a flag on the moon. It doesn't go up there and represent conquest. It actually represents national pride, achievement, and not only for the U.S. but for all the world. And in fact, Neil Armstrong's famous words when he was stepped off the LEM onto the moon basically symbolizes that, as well as the plaque that was left on the moon by Apollo 11, and subsequently the plaque that was left on the moon by Apollo 17 when they left. So understand. I know Buzz runs around with a shirt with a picture of an astronaut planting a flag saying "Finders Keepers." Don't believe it; it's wrong. But that's Buzz. But understand that the international law is still what was kind of strengthened that day, and really it is significant for all future endeavors where there's this big quote race back to the moon. And actually, kind of an argument I'm having right now is that, if you need a reason to go back to the moon, it's not just for space resources or national pride, but also to enhance the rule of international law. And I'll discuss that probably in a later blog post on my Space Thoughts blog and here in a video blog. So again, Apollo 50 years, wow, our moonwalkers are getting old, and they won't be with us for much longer, but hopefully we'll have a new generation of moonwalkers to look up to in just a few short years. Okay? Until next time.